Welcome to Cultivating Pleasant Places. I'm Brenda Dillon. I'm going through Charlotte Mason's 20 principles, and I've already covered number 1, children are born persons. Today I want to look at her second, third, and fourth principles, which all have to do with authority and obedience. And I know those are not popular topics. This could ruffle a few feathers. I would like to say, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just going to lay out what Charlotte Mason presents, although I do happen to agree with her on these principles. Principle number 2, children are not born either good or bad, but with possibilities for good and evil. During Charlotte Mason's day, there were people who thought that kids basically were incapable of learning. They were born already bad or good. It sounds incredible to us, but they really did think kids kind of came out and were genetically predisposed to be a good kid or a bad kid. And Charlotte Mason very much disagreed with this. She said, no, they are born persons and they have possibilities for good or evil, but we are going to make a mistake if we view them as purely good or purely evil. They're not angels, they're persons. And so I think that is a good, biblical, accurate way of looking at kids and how we want to be viewed. We don't want to be put in a box. We want to be viewed as having that potential as well. Then she does say that she thinks children are under authority, that this isn't something that we should just give up as parents or as teachers. And I've very much seen this in the classroom. If you come into the classroom as a teacher, as a parent, and you don't present yourself as the one in authority, it makes for a very chaotic classroom and nobody's happy. Children don't like to have to wonder who's in charge. You're going to have strong personalities and kids coming in and trying to fill that vacuum or challenge the teacher. If the teacher just comes in and knows I'm the one in charge, everyone feels safe and secure, and we can have a positive learning environment. And so Charlotte Mason says, don't give that up. Don't abdicate that authority. But she also says that there are limiting factors on that. So principle number 4, these principles are limited by the respect due to the personality of children, which must not be encroached upon, whether by the direct use of fear, love, suggestion, influence, and we'll go into those a little bit, or by the undue play upon any one natural desire. So she very much thinks it's not a good thing when a teacher comes in and the personality of the teacher just overpowers the students, where they're so in love with her, they'll do anything for her. She says there's a moral ought for every person, children and adults. I think it's the ought of the teachings of the Bible, the 10 Commandments. And so she says we have a moral obligation to do what we know is right, and children do as well. So one of her sayings that you'll see a lot is I am, I can, I ought, I will. And I tell this to my children all the time, but it starts on that foundation of who am I, knowing who you are as a person, that children are born persons. I know we keep coming back to that, but it is so foundational. And even now I'll hear in exercise programs, don't start with the goal, start with that statement about yourself. Who am I? I am a healthy person. So in education, I am a person who wants to learn. And then we are capable, so don't limit children, don't limit ourselves. I can do what I ought, and I will do it. Then having that fortitude to say, I will follow through. I am, I can, I ought, I will. And so that lays out, we tell children to obey because they ought, and to respect their authorities because they ought. But she says, for parents, the sense of must should be present with children. Our mistake is to act in such a way that they only seem to be law compelled while their elders do as they please. So here, this guards us against parents or teachers becoming authoritarians. We also are compelled by the ought. So we can only do what we ought, and we can't be controlling them with fear, or even with love, if they are just obeying because they love us. Don't you love mommy? Why don't you pick up your shoes? No, that is not, that's manipulating them. And so I think it's actually a very freeing principle that there is authority. God is all of our authority, and therefore we should do what we ought. And of course, we'll make mistakes, but we're all working on this together, and we're developing the will, our own and our children's. So this is hard. I know when I first heard it, I thought, well, how are we supposed to motivate them without consequences or rewards? But she was kind of ahead of her time in that. Now there are books, Punished by Rewards, that say sometimes it can be a tool, but we teach the kids to want the reward instead of the actual object that we would like them to attain. So by giving children pizzas or stickers or money to do the thing that they ought, it kind of actually undermines all of what we're trying to get them to do, which is to love to read or to love to learn. Charlotte Mason does say that kids actually have, God puts in them a desire to learn. She says the work of education is greatly simplified when we realize that children, apparently all children, want to know all human knowledge. That's in the Philosophy of Education on page 89. And it seems we kind of question that. We go, no, I don't know, my kids might not just love all human knowledge. I think I need to give them a reward, a punishment. And I really have learned to trust this method, but it does rest on mom being the authority or dad being the authority. She tells us it is not open to parents either to lay aside or to sink under the burden of the honor laid upon them. And no doubt we have all seen the fullest, freest flow of confidence, sympathy, and love between parent and child, where the mother sits as queen among her children and the father is honored as the crowned head. That's from Parents and Children. And I do believe this to be true, that the parents are the authority, and this is not a democracy, it's a monarchy. I love Karen Andriola in her book Mother Culture says she tells her kids that if they ask a second time, so she's given them a direction and they question it and come back and do we really have to? And she says the queen has spoken. And so I think that is just a really cute way of emphasizing the parent is the head of the household, and it will make smooth days, Charlotte Mason says, if we use habit training, and so I'll go into that a bit in another video. But I hope you will think about this, read some of Charlotte Mason's works, and really wrestle with it. But it's freeing not to fall into a ditch on either side of thinking that children are all bad and just need to be punished, or they aren't capable of doing what we expect them to do, or to fall in the ditch on the other side and say we're equal and this is a democracy and we're going to vote on what we want to do during the school day. That is definitely not part of Charlotte Mason's principles.